Technical difficulty there, but let's get started. So we are Birch Boys, and our origin and mission, basically at age 15, Garrett Kopp, our CEO and founder, tried Chaga tea for the first time when he was supporting his Mimi, his grandmother, during her battle with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. This sparked a lifelong passion for him with healing mushrooms and sustainable practices. Now, he's a licensed New York State mushroom identification expert, and he leads Birch Boys. We craft authentic small batch products made with care and integrity. And so Garrett got started, as you can see in the bottom image there. Essentially, he was mowing his grandma's lawn and went in to drink what he thought was regular iced tea. And it ended up being Chaga tea that she was drinking because she had pancreatic cancer. And so she started cracking up when she found that Garrett was drinking her medicinal fungus tea. She just so happened to have a birch tree out in the backyard and taught Garrett about Chaga there. So after not too long, they started going to farmers markets together. She spun wool, or fiber, as you can see in the top picture, and Garrett sold Chaga. Our mission here at Birch Boys, we want to craft potent, sustainably harvested medicinal mushroom products. We want people to reconnect with nature. We wild harvest sustainably from over 200,000 acres of leased Adirondack forest land, and we want to encourage more symbiotic and mutualistic relationships between people and our world. So as far as our sourcing goes, sourcing really is the biggest part of mushrooms where you want to pay a lot of attention. Sourcing and processing, of course. So quality sourcing begins with a deep understanding of fungi, which is a uniquely diverse and complex kingdom of life. Over the past decade, we've refined sourcing practices tailored to each mushroom species because each mushroom species needs a little bit of a different harvesting protocol. We draw on our expertise to ensure peak potency and sustainability. So our Chaga, artist conk, Reishi, and turkey tail are sourced from the Adirondacks on our leased lands, and it's organic certified forest land. Our lion's mane and maitake are sourced from organic growers in California and Minnesota. And then our Cordyceps is sourced from an expert grower in Auburn, New York. That one's not yet USDA organic certified, but the standards are followed and they plan to be certified in the future. So when does wild matter? The value of wild harvesting varies by fungus. For us, the most important fungi to wild harvest is Chaga because it absorbs key compounds like betulinic acid from its birch tree host. So mushrooms grow on specific natural substrates. Hemlock reishi, or North American red reishi, grows on dead hemlock. Lion's mane and turkey tail grow kind of generically on hardwoods. Maitake mostly on oak, sometimes on maple. Some species like lion's mane produce beneficial compounds regardless of their substrate, while others rely heavily on their host for medicinal compounds. So lion's mane, turkey tail, maitake, they don't really rely too heavily on their substrate in order to produce medicinal value. But Chaga, you really want to be having birch Chaga because a lot of the healing compounds come from that parasitic relationship with the birch tree. The next thing about growing versus wild is cultivation method. Some cultivation methods use cost-cutting dual yield techniques. That means that they harvest both the fruiting body and the myceliated grain. These methods don't produce the most medicinally potent fruiting bodies because they're grown on grain, not on the wood they're supposed to be grown on. Growing fruiting bodies on their appropriate substrate preserves the integrity of the mushroom chemistry. So basically what that means is that some brands, instead of growing on wood, the appropriate substrate, are growing on grain, and the purpose of that is so that they can sell both the substrate and the resulting fruiting body out of that substrate. So if you see the image to the left, the myceliated grain bag, that is what's in mushroom supplements that say, fermented biomass or have anything saying biomass on the back or, myceliated grain. That's what you're getting. You're getting basically 70% grain and 30% mycelium because you can't really separate the grain from the mycelium. Some companies are delving into liquid extracts of mycelium, but it's not super common yet. So why is fruiting body important? The fruiting body is the fruit of the fungus, the actual mushroom itself. Most credible research that has been done on the benefits of medicinal mushrooms uses fruiting bodies or their extracts, not mycelium or myceliated grain. Of course, there are company-funded studies on mycelium and myceliated grain. Unfortunately, there have been a lot of flaws found in those studies, and of course, there's a financial interest involved. Fruiting bodies contain far higher concentrations of beneficial compounds, even when you compare directly pure mycelium to pure fruiting body. What's often sold as mycelium is usually myceliated grain, which is about 30% mycelium or fungal matter and 70% grain. So if you want to spend a lot of money on a brown rice supplement, go for it. The grain also obscures test results for potency. So beta-glucan is one of the most easily tested compounds within a mushroom that can be an indicator of quality. It's not the end-all be-all by any means, but it's the most commercially available test for brands. So there are several types of beta-glucan. There's fungal beta-glucan, and then there's grain beta-glucan, also called yeast-derived beta-glucan, fungal beta-glucan, and then starch-derived beta-glucan. So a lot of companies will test for total beta-glucan, which will inflate the, if you have myceliated grain, the grain in there is going to very much inflate the reading of beta-glucan, but grain beta-glucan does not behave like fungal beta-glucan does. So unfortunately, it's not giving you those same benefits. And then while mycelium absolutely has some benefits in certain contexts, hold on everybody. It looks like my stream's having a little trouble because this is a slideshow. I think we will just keep on keeping on. So mycelium has lots of value in some context, but we focus on fruiting bodies because they're more natural, more studied, and they offer the most reliable medicinal profile. As far as extraction methods go, there are several ways to extract, actually far more than is even listed here, if you're talking about, extractables in general. But for our methods, we'll talk about 3 extractions. The first is a hot water extraction. Y'all are probably pretty familiar with this. That's when you make coffee, you make tea, anything you brew in hot water is a hot water extraction. And then there's the alcohol extraction. Alcohol extraction targets alcohol-soluble compounds, and it's known as a tincture. Some people will ask, why is there alcohol in your tinctures? That's a trick question. The definition of a tincture basically implies that it has alcohol in it. Alcohol is essential for mushroom preparations because many solvents can't penetrate chitin, which is the tough cell wall of mushrooms, and you just need something stronger and able to get in there. So essentially, think about it like paper and crab shell. In plants or herbs, their fiber is cellulose, which is paper. Think about ripping paper. And then in fungi, their fiber is chitin, which is crab shell. Think about ripping crab shell. So you need something quite a bit stronger than water to get all of the benefits from the fungi. So that's where our extraction method comes in. We use double extraction, and so that's where you combine a hot water extraction with an alcohol extraction. So you get all of the beneficial compounds from the mushroom without having too much alcohol, without waste in the mushroom matter when you're done extracting it. So here we go with chaga. The importance of wild harvesting chaga is critical. Chaga is not a mushroom, it's a sclerotium, and thusly the medicinal part of the fungus cannot be cultivated. So it has to grow parasitically in the wild. There are people all over the world, including us, working on inoculating trees with chaga. As far as I know, no one has been definitively successful yet. Things are promising in our neck of the woods, but we aren't quite there yet. So that is why you'll hear so much conversation about chaga and sustainability, because chaga is a parasite on the birch tree. So at the end of chaga's life, it does kill the birch tree, and we'll get to that in just a minute. So chaga's benefits are very wide. Of course, chaga is great for immune support. It's great for energy and stamina, cellular health, digestive support, hair, skin, and nails, respiratory support, and it's an adaptogen. What an adaptogen means is that it's a substance that is going to help your body positively respond to stress, whether that's environmental stress, physiological stress, all sorts of things like that. As far as immune support, chaga's main immune supporting compounds actually come both from the water-soluble compounds and the alcohol-soluble compounds. So melanin, fungal melanin, which gives chaga its rich black color, is actually one of the biggest antioxidative components of chaga. And that's one way it supports the immune health, because antioxidants help scavenge free radicals. And then it also has several other interesting compounds like inositol in the alcohol extraction, betulinic acid in the alcohol extraction, and then things like trimethanolic acid, which are all fantastic for your immune system. As far as energy and stamina goes, the tinctures are going to be more potent, and chaga is really great for giving you kind of that motivational energy that helps you like organize your closet, get your house clean, yada, yada, yada. So as far as sustainability goes, we have an 8-point unique sustainability plan in the industry, and it's actually really intimately related to what we have available to us in the Adirondack Park. It's really quite unique to us. So the first is sourcing. We source our chaga from the Adirondack Park. If you're not familiar with the Adirondacks, we are the largest state park and the only state park you can live in. So basically, we have a lot of land. We lease 200,000 acres of the park for our exclusive fungi harvesting purposes. And the Adirondacks is home to chaga's favorite host tree, the golden birch. The golden birch is the largest species of birch tree on the continental US. So it's called Betula alleganiensis, and it's beautiful. If you're used to seeing white birch trees, you might even not notice that the yellow birch are birch trees, because they're so big and they're just so different from, you know, the white birch, the paper birch, the black birch. So the first is that the golden birch is so large that chaga can actually have its full life cycle on a single limb instead of taking the whole tree. So not only is the chaga able to grow for much longer, grow much larger, and concentrate more beneficial compounds, but also sometimes the tree can survive, which is nice. The next is scouting. We scout out our chaga sourcing locations. Basically, we try to check to make sure there are enough of chaga's reproductive structure, the poroid, in order for us to harvest. So that way we know that, oh, there's 15 poroids in this acre, and there's plenty of chaga, so we can harvest that because there has been plenty of chaga reproduction happening and the spores are about. The other thing that we do is we track our chaga trees. There's about 3 days in between the chaga killing the birch tree and creating the poroid and the chaga completely falling off the tree and going bad. And so we will very frequently check these trees and grab the chaga if it has reproduced. We also have a timely harvest and expert harvesters. They are DEC licensed guides, loggers, and other ecologically motivated people. They have to bring in their products within 24 hours. We operate with wasteless handling, and we are prepared for emergencies because we're working on cultivating chaga. And then the last point is consent. You know, we're spiritual here at Birch Boys, and sometimes you get a vibe that you should not be harvesting a certain conk of chaga, or sometimes things are particularly difficult, and usually that means maybe it's better to leave it. But for the most part, we get the vibe that the forest is happy that we're here. Here's some chaga harvesting pictures. You can see how much chaga we have. That's me with my purple hair down in the corner there. Garrett's got a great big chunk of chaga there. You can see the one picture where Garrett is pointing to the chaga up in the tree. That ripped open bark is a chaga poroid. And then this over in the corner, the guy with the huge chaga, that's Ryan's skiff, and that's the biggest piece of chaga we've ever had come through the shop. It was huge and absolutely came off of golden birch. So what's the difference between wild chaga and cultivated chaga? Well, wild chaga is 100% sclerotium, which is the conk that we're familiar with for chaga. It's parasitic on a birch tree for years, which means it's absorbing betulinic acid, beneficial sterols. It is foraged in harsh weather. The reason that's important is that the more harsh changes you have in the weather, the more beneficial compounds the birch tree is going to release in order for the chaga to absorb it. So the more you have fluctuating temperatures, really extremely cold temperatures, the more potent that chaga is going to be. And of course, wild chaga has a full earthy flavor, it's authentic, it's potent, whereas cultivated chaga has no sclerotium or conk. It's a rice material. Fake chaga doesn't look anything like what we all know chaga as. It's grown in a matter of days. It's not grown on birch, so it's missing birch compounds. That's the reason I know it's not grown on birch, is because they cannot make a supplement out of sawdust. So it should be being grown on sawdust, it's not. And so it's not getting any birch compounds. It's usually grown indoor, stress-free, and it has little to no fungal melanin. It's got a weak diluted profile and doesn't really taste like chaga. In this picture here, you can see the difference between an extract made with real chaga and an extract that is not made with real chaga. So our chaga tincture on the left is incredibly potent to the point of being almost black. And then our leading competitor, who I'm sure you all are familiar with, that's their chaga extract. I think the visual is enough, and in the side we've got some information we've already covered. Of course, the black that you see in our tincture is fungal melanin, and that's the main antioxidative water-soluble compound in chaga, in addition to beta-glucan. And that's something you can visibly see. Melanin is a pigment, so something's missing in the extract on the right. Moving on to reishi. Ganoderma tsugae. This is North American hemlock reishi. There are a gazillion kinds of reishi, and if you're interested in the medicinal differences and ecological differences between them, we do have a blog on our website all about it. It's called Decoding Ganoderma. So the importance of wild harvesting hemlock reishi isn't as important as chaga, but it's still very important that it has a correct substrate. So it's less important than to wild harvest it than to make sure that it has been grown on hemlock. This is phenomenal for sleep and calm support. And this is really where it differs from Lingzi or Chinese reishi or Ganoderma sichuanense, is because Chinese reishi is normally energizing. It's very immune stimulating, whereas North American red reishi is better for sleep and calm. It's good for inflammation, it's great for your mood and your hair, skin, and nails. It's been touted as the mushroom of immortality for thousands of years. It's also good for respiratory support and liver support. Similarly to chaga, we benefit by being in the Adirondack Park with reishi because it's incredibly wet here. We get a lot of rainfall, we have a lot of water systems, and mushrooms and fungi really, really need water in order to live their best life. So the reishi that we find here is some of the biggest we've ever seen, and some of the biggest people in our industry have ever seen from a wild perspective. You can see the baby reishi has little white edges, and the fully mature reishi has orange edges. So some people will actually cut off those little white edges and eat them, like fry them up, you know. But I've heard they really don't have a distinct flavor, and then once they reach maturity, they're very woody and tough. You can't actually eat them. The flavor of reishi is a little bit bitter, a little bit umami, and so we cut it with rose hips in our tea just to give it a nice little kick. Moving on to turkey tail. The importance of wild harvesting turkey tail. Again, it's pretty important too, but it's not the end-all be-all. It's not picky about its substrate as far as which wood it is, but wild specimens in some studies have been found to have a better medicinal profile than their cultivated counterparts. So of course we stick with the wild turkey tail. Turkey tail is phenomenal for immune support, digestive support, and prostate support. I personally say every man should be on chaga and turkey tail as long as they don't have kidney issues. That's for chaga, not turkey tail. Every man should be on turkey tail because prostate support is really important. Liver support is also something the turkey tail can do. It's good for energy and stamina because it has long chain polysaccharides in it, and it's also an adaptogen like all the fungi that we sell. Our shop dog Joey actually had his own journey with turkey tail, and if you're interested in reading more about mushrooms for dogs, you can check out that QR code right on the bottom. Here's some pictures we've got of turkey tail. It's one of the ones that it's just really tedious to harvest. Sometimes you get paper cuts from it. It does not like to come off the tree in one big lump, and it is feather light. So it's one of the most expensive fungi wild on the market. And around this time every year, the market tends to run out of wild turkey tail and the price skyrockets. But then this is the harvesting season, so it's also when we bring in the most and everything that we'll use for the year. Artist conk, this is one of our newer additions. Artist conk is pretty important to wild harvest, and that's because it's a perennial fungus, meaning that it grows over multiple years. The longer it grows, the more medicinal compounds it's going to concentrate, the larger it's going to get. So it is pretty important to wild harvest this. I don't really know of many people who cultivate artist conk. It's kind of a weird one, but its medicinal profile is phenomenal. We actually, when tested, we found that it was higher in ganoderic acids than hemlock reishi, which is really the main compound responsible for inflammation support, respiratory support, pain management, your gout support, immune support. So artist conk is a really, really great one. And honestly, I typically recommend taking reishi and artist conk together, especially if you're looking for like an inflammation soothing effect. I have arthritis, I take it for that. Here's some picture of artist conk. Up in the top corner, we've got artist conk on an artist conk. You can see the huge artist conk Garrett has down in the lower right-hand photo. And this is known as the artist conk because a lot of people it stains very easily, so you can actually draw on it. Artists and indigenous people have been using it as a canvas for a very long time, but it also has a lot of medicinal benefits. Lion's mane, everybody's favorite. So, the importance of wild harvesting lion's mane, it's not that important. What's important is that it's grown on a wood substrate. Lion's mane's benefits are inherent to lion's mane itself, but it should be grown on hardwood, it should be grown in a quality manner, and we get our lion's mane from some expert growers. One of them's in Minnesota and one's in California, and we work really closely with them to make sure that all of their practices line up with our ethics. So lion's mane is phenomenal for cognitive support. While chaga is, we're the Birch Boys. Chaga is our specialty. Lion's mane is our bread and butter, and that's because lion's mane is really noticeable. A lot of people really find noticeable benefit from it, and because of that, it's gotten really popular. That's why you hear about it so often. It's because it's quite a bit easier to notice your brain working faster, better, feeling better in your mind than it is to notice your immune system being boosted, because that typically takes a few months of not getting ill for you to realize. So lion's mane's got kind of a quick noticeability. It's also great for energy and stamina. It really, really provides mental energy. I absolutely love taking lion's mane when I have a heavy work day ahead of me. It also supports the nervous system. Most of its cognitive support comes from how it modulates the nervous system. So this is a great benefit of lion's mane. You'll read lots of studies on like NGF and lion's mane. Also great for mood, immune support, and digestion, because of course we all know the gut-brain connection is important and you need to nurture both. Maitake, of course we don't wild harvest lion's mane, so we don't really have any wild harvested photos of it. So we're moving right on to maitake. Maitake, again, just like lion's mane, not super important to wild harvest. It's also, especially up here, incredibly rare. I've never actually myself found maitake, even though I look every year. So in Japanese, it means dancing mushroom, and that's because if someone found it, they knew they would get its weight in silver for it. So the commoners would jump for joy and dance when they found the maitake. It's really, really phenomenal in a lot of ways. It's honestly my #1 underrated mushroom pick, because the benefits of maitake are quite measurable if you're someone who could use maitake. It's really great for the metabolism, both in terms of like your gut metabolism, but also your blood metabolism. It's really great for circulatory support. So with both of those in mind, we've had a lot of customers say that they've had, in conjunction with diet and exercise, really great results from maitake as it pertains to weight loss. And then we see some phenomenal reviews from people about cholesterol and their cardiovascular health. So you should go check out those reviews. Women's health, maitake is amazing for women's health, actually at all ages. That doesn't mean that it's not great for men's health. It's great for everybody's health, but for women's health, it actually has some unique properties. So it supports women's health at any age, which essentially means that when you're going through your menstruating years, it's going to support, healthy menstrual flow, a healthy cycle, healthy breast tissue. And then as you get to your postmenopausal years, it actually eliminates night sweats and hot flashes. And a lot of women rave about the effects of maitake on their menopause symptoms. So maitake really makes a big difference in the lives of most people who give it a try, and I can't encourage it enough. All right, our newest mushroom, Cordyceps. Looks like I made this slide wrong. It says lion's mane. That's an oops. So Cordyceps militaris is the species that we use here at Birch Boys. That is not the same species that y'all may have heard of in certain media that overtakes bugs. Our Cordyceps is vegan. It is not, we don't harm any animals in the process. So when people refer to wild Cordyceps, what they mean is Ophiocordyceps sinensis, which is exceedingly rare and costly. And there are also some studies that show negative effects. So the reason we use militaris is it does not have any of those negative effects, and it's not exceedingly rare. It's actually been very able to be cultivated, which is kind of new in the Cordyceps realm. And so the readings on the beneficial compounds on our source from Cordyceps are incredibly good. And so people are already seeing a difference from using Cordyceps, even though it's a rather new product for us. Particularly Garrett uses it for hormonal support. So it's great for energy and stamina. In a trio with Chaga and lion's mane, Cordyceps would make a phenomenal replacement for caffeine. Nothing's gonna give you that buzz like caffeine, but it would be a really, really good way to try to lessen your intake. It's also really good for musculoskeletal support, which I really like. I have a connective tissue disorder and I need all the musculoskeletal support I can get. It's also kind of the only mushroom besides artist conk that really targets the musculoskeletal system. It's also great for hormonal and reproductive support, gut support, weight management, brain, and skin. We have a long, all-encompassing blog about Cordyceps on the website, and I'd highly encourage any of you who are here and interested. You would probably be interested in our blog section on our website. There's a lot of good material there. So, mushroom warnings. Not every mushroom is for every person. The very first warning I like to give is that raw chaga is not edible. As we spoke about, chaga is not a mushroom. A mushroom is a fleshy, moist, spore-bearing reproductive organ of a fungus. Chaga is non-reproductive. It is a sterile, hard conk. It's actually harder than wood, and it is the hardest non-mineral substance. So if you tried to bite into this, you would not be happy. And similarly, you don't want to eat ground raw chaga because it would be very hard on your teeth and very hard on your digestive tract. So chaga must be brewed as a tea or a tincture. Extracted preparations are the only suitable form for direct use. You cannot eat raw ground chaga or loose chaga or chaga chunks. It could cause serious issues, including gastrointestinal upset and mouth irritation. The only chaga forms safe for immediate consumption are tinctures and extracted powders like Chaga Now, which we sell on our website. You can see the top photo is the photo of a Chaga sclerosum, a Chaga conk. Directly under that is what edible dissolving chaga powder looks like. It should be black if it's high quality. And right next to that, in the photo with the hands to the right, you can see that's what ground chaga looks like. So it's very different. So chaga is also a very powerful fungus, which means that it isn't necessarily for everyone. It can be too strong for some types of people, and we typically recommend that the following people consult with a medical provider before trying chaga. those with diabetes, people who have a blood clotting disorder or very thin blood, those with kidney issues or who are prone to kidney stones, and those with osteoporosis or osteopenia, calcium deficiency, or who are on a reduced oxalate diet. If you're pregnant and breastfeeding or have an upcoming surgery, again, chaga is probably not for you. Reactions to the other mushrooms are rare but possible. When in doubt, check with your doctor. And if we want to just go through the reasoning for these, I'm super happy to do it. So chaga can naturally regulate insulin. So if you have diabetes or you get diabetic ketoacidosis, the oxalates in chaga can be too much for your system. However, if you don't get DKA and you have diabetes, chaga may change the amount of insulin that you need. So if that's something you're interested in, you do need to speak with your medical provider in order to manage the adjustment there. The blood clotting disorders, that is essentially pretty much all mushrooms can thin your blood, but chaga especially so. Those with kidney issues and the calcium, osteoporosis stuff is just because chaga contains oxalates, but it's really important to note that there are about 3 milligrams of soluble oxalates per serving of chaga tincture. And for context, a half a cup of spinach has 750 milligrams of soluble oxalates. So if you are someone who eats spinach, I would not worry about oxalates from chaga. And then on our last little tidbit here, we recently have made a mushroom coffee, and not to toot our own horn, but we worked really hard on this. And the reason we made it was because we did not find a mushroom coffee that we would want to have. So a lot of them are chalky or taste mushroomy and weird. And what we've found is that the reasoning for that is that extract powders are not all created equal. You can see in the photo on the left, the top plates have our competitors' mushroom powders in them. You can see that they're all powders and they're varying shades of taupe to brown. Then on the bottom, in the square plates, you can see those are our extracts. You cannot powder lion's mane in a natural way. It actually turns into a resin, and so do a few of the other mushrooms. So what other companies do to mediate that is they take the spent mushroom matter, the cellular material that has already had all the good stuff extracted from it, think of it like your used tea bag, and they grind that up and they mix it back in with those dark extracts. This does 2 things. Firstly, it makes everything easy to powder and able to be powdered. And secondly, it's going to bulk up the weight of that extract. So they can say, oh, 300 milligrams of lion's mane extract, but you don't actually know how much lion's mane beneficial compounds went into that, or if it's just spent mushroom material. So we always knew something was up with extract powders, but we didn't quite understand exactly what was up until recently, working with our Cordyceps supplier. He kind of enlightened us into some of the practices in the industry that maybe are not the best. So this results in a higher weight, but a far lower potency of extract. It also negatively affects flavor and texture. That's why you get that chalky, mushroomy flavor. And it can also make it harder to digest because a liquid extract and liquid fiber is a lot more easy on your gut than the chitinous fiber from the mushroom matter. So I highly encourage you guys, if you love coffee and you love mushroom coffees, this is a mushroom coffee. It has 2 things in it, mushrooms and coffee, and it's really good. You can't even taste the mushrooms, and it's incredibly potent, so it's phenomenal. It comes both decaf and regular. And thank you guys for hanging out with me this whole time. If you have any questions, please send them through to the chat now, and I will get to answering those for you.